Kick the main boss of the company out of your bar at a company drinks? Okay. I don't know if this is necessarily in malicious compliance, but it happened to my dad. He was one of the 3 partners at one of his former companies, about medium sized. One day, he and his company went to a company drinks. I don't think it was exactly a company party, but it was more than an after work drink at the pub. Anyway, the bar was serving aperitifs, and my dad asked for his without ice, as he hates ice stains in his drink. The landlord, who was behind the bar, refused and said the ice was mandatory, so he served my dad's with ice. Dad accepted it, took the ice out, and laid it on the drain rack that goes under the beer drafts. The landlord ordered him to leave. My dad was half expecting it, but asked him to repeat himself. The landlord once again told him to leave. My dad said okay and started to leave, and his company all started to file out after him. The landlord protested, no, you don't all have to leave. Only he has to leave. One of the other staffers said something along the lines of sorry mate. He's the big boss. We all go where he goes. So they all left and went to another bar. They had made a reservation at the bar they were leaving, but they hadn't put down any deposit for it and hadn't bought any drinks yet. The aperitifs had been complimentary, so the landlord didn't even get paid for those. Could you go any slower? City bus driver here. My regular route consists of a circuit between the local university and the intercity train station. Like many bus routes, I'm not given enough time during heavy rush hours. So I'm pulling into the train station and notice there is already a train there. I'm 10 minutes late, but the train company recommends being at the station a half hour before your train. So no big deal. I hear a loud sigh and a whine, could you go any slower? I need that train. Well, the speed limit down the long straight driveway is absurdly low at 25 km per hour. I was doing 35 km per hour to try to catch the train. Thank you for drawing my attention to my speed. I will correct my error of going over the limit. Bitch didn't catch her train. Can't drive. So I lived in a rural part of New York. Everything was a 15+ minute drive away, so no car, no living. Anyways, I had just gotten my driver's license and my parents gave me a car to drive. They had an older car that they held onto but don't really use. One nice sunny afternoon, maybe a Saturday, my friends tell me that they are all hanging out in town, a roughly 15-minute drive from my house, and I think nice. I can drive there no problem. Just gotta ask my parents. So I ask my mother if I can go, and she says no. Puzzled, I ask why. She goes on to tell me that I'm not allowed to drive to town because I said so. There was nothing going on. She didn't need the car, and I had a reasonable amount of driving experience. The sole reason was because I said so. Getting kind of ticked off, but keeping my cool, I ask her one last time, so I'm not allowed to drive into town and hang out with my friends? To which she obviously replied no. Great. So without skipping a beat, I walk away from her, grab my stuff, and start walking. It took me an hour and a half walking along the sides of roads without sidewalks to get to my destination. 5 minutes after I get there and meet up with my friends, I get a call. Mom, where the hell are you? Me, in town hanging out with my friends. Mom, why the hell are you there? I told you that you couldn't go. Me, no, you said I couldn't drive. So I walked. Mom, are you fucking kidding me? You better get back here right now. Me, hell no. I just walked an hour and a half to get here. I'm not gonna start that trip again for another couple hours. Mom, I don't care. You need to get back here right now. Me, look. I told you that I'm not walking back for a while. So either you wait or you come pick me up. But I'm not walking back right now. Mom, fine. Where are you? Me, at the park. Mom, alright. I'm sending your stepdad to pick you up. Don't leave there. So after half an hour my stepdad shows up and picks me up. He just kinda shakes his head at me and says, I can't believe you did that, to which I replied, but I did what she asked. I didn't drive to town. There was no punishment. It's against our policy. I'm a teacher with a lot of my students on placement at the moment. I'm doing a lot of training for private healthcare companies to fill my days. Today I had a student in training tell me that I was completely wrong. And how could I, an outsider to the company, think that I know their policies better than her, a manager with 20 years with the company? Let's call her Karen. She then proceeded to say, almost heckle me in front of the entire class, I challenge you to show me where exactly it says that we must do that in our policy, as I'm sure I know it better than you. Okie dokie. You see, as it turns out, I had a copy of said policy on me. In fact, I had 12 copies. I proceeded to hand one to each student and direct them straight to the article within said policy stating what I had said word for word, and I mean verbatim. At this point Karen had gone a little red, clearly embarrassed, but I wasn't done with her yet. I then proceeded to say to the group, mostly Karen, that although I had not worked for their company for 20 years, I would encourage them to all look at the bottom of the last page of said policy. The students all flipped to the last page, as I pointed out to them that I was part of the team that wrote the policy, as their company had come to me as an outside source to externally review it. I kinda wished I had a mic to drop at that point, but the look on Karen's face I think was enough. Stock it with anything. Not actually sure if MC compliant, cause I don't know how these instructions could have possibly had a good result, but it clearly wasn't what my manager expected either way. On mobile. Worked overnights at a gas station. Had cooler with 3 doors. First was all Pepsi, second was all Coke, and third was milk and such. For whatever reason, Coke delivery was late. Really late. Coke space looked pitiful. We were sold out of everything except 5 Cokes, a dozen or so cherry Cokes and a single lonely Fanta. There was nothing left in backstock. Manager threw a fit if there were any empty spaces in the coolers, so I asked her what I should do. Even with 1 soda per slot, it wouldn't even fill half. She had no time for me, typical, and said I don't care, just stock it with something. Anything. Okay then. She came in the next morning, and aside from the cherry Coke, I sold the Cokes and 1 Fanta. It was Mountain Dew. All Mountain Dew, cause we had 5 cases of the stuff for some awful reason. Mountain Dew for days. She threw a fit. Coke guy arrived a minute later, about time, and also threw a fit. I just shrugged, cause my shift was now over, and it was someone else's problem to deal with. We never ran out of Coke products again. Multinational company makes a blanket rule. So I work for a company that employs thousands of employees at my location alone, and many more worldwide. Last year we, Southern Ontario residents, got a crazy snowstorm that hit right before the early morning rush hour. People were calling into work like crazy, and we didn't start on time due to a lack of bodies, probably fully operational about 20 minutes late. Many people who work here have an hour or more commute, and usually rely on back roads to get out / in their rural areas. So the next day corporate, located in the United States, sends out a notice. Call-ins due to weather will only be accepted if the 400 series highways are closed in your province. For those of you unfamiliar with Canada, the 400 series is a vast beast that you can basically drive across the whole province on. 2 days after this notice goes out, there's a rollover on the highway about 4 hours northeast of our place of work. To be clear, this doesn't affect any of our employees, even slightly, because it's so far away. We had so many people call in that the shift was completely cancelled. 8 full hours lost. I've never been so proud of my co-workers' commitment and unity. The next day an email went out to our management stating that weather call-ins would now be dealt with by our in-house management and not corporate. Above my pay grade. More petty than malicious, but very satisfying. I'm a manager at a logistics company, and I'm assigned monthly audits which are fairly time consuming. One issue that we have where I am is that some of our office admins sometimes act entitled and like to push work to other people. This month my audits involve outside vendors and details about the contracts that we have with them and making sure everything is compliant. The only person with access to the information I need is one of our front desk admins. I should mention that there is a lot of animosity between the office staff and everyone that works on our loading dock because the people in the office tend to get a lot of extra little perks, lunch and dinner paid for them daily, holiday parties, nice new equipment and furniture. This morning I asked her to pull the files on the contracts that I need. She asks for the list, which is all online and easily accessible. The one I printed out was with our senior manager who happened to be in a meeting. He was the one that told me to have her pull all of the info this morning anyway. She told me that she needs the list, so I told her that she could pull it up on the site, which she does for all of her work friends that she needs to pull files for. She replied with, "You need to hand me the list because it's above my pay grade to do that." I already did about 75% of the audit already and had it filled out online. It's a simple 3 clicks away for her, but the way she proudly proclaimed that it wasn't her job to pull files that she put together for an audit on her job really pissed me off. I happily printed the list out for her, but only after erasing everything that I did already, so she had to search through dozens of filing cabinets and hundreds of files for all 50 that I need now instead of just 12 or so. Again, not quite malicious, but satisfying that she gets to spend an extra hour or more of her day looking for info that I already have instead of shopping on her phone while she's at work. Manager ruins customer experience because she doesn't like me. So I'm 17 and I work in a fast food restaurant. Recently we received a new manager, and as I made a slight mistake of not remembering when the shop shut, the new manager developed a grudge for me. I then noticed that I had much longer shifts than normal, as she then decided to put me on shifts with her just to bully me and belittle me, which she does to all other young staff too. She didn't even bother to call me by my name and only referred to me as the little boy. Getting to the point, later in a long shift we were getting extremely crowded and my fellow co-workers were getting very stressed. I finished serving all of the customers and turn around to help the now 5 people packing orders. I then asked them what one hadn't been done yet so I could get started on it, and that way we could get everything done quicker. I noticed that she, new manager, had been eyeing me up that entire time, and after we locked eyes she quickly came and physically moved me to turn around and told me to not help anyone as I'm very bad at my job and will just confuse everyone. My co-workers were shocked, but I gave them a look to just wait. Soon after, the drive-thru was open again and the other 2 people helping had to go back to their stations, leaving me and my other 2 co-workers with me. Customers were then getting extremely angry and asking me why the food was taking so long and why I wasn't helping make the orders. I then tell the customers that I'm obeying my manager's orders and doing nothing as I'm bad at my job and will confuse everyone. The customers were then complaining to my manager due to this, and she got a pretty hard time that day as a surprise inspection later came in and I was asked why I was doing nothing. Needless to say, she now hates me a lot more, but it was good to see her suffer for her horrible treatment of staff and planning. I also might possibly have a new job soon as a video editor, which is what I want to do, so I cannot wait to hand in my 2-week notice and state that I'm leaving due to her bullying, which will look good on a record. No food in the classroom. Not my story but a friend's. He had a professor in college who would occasionally go on a rant about how some of the items from Taco Bell don't even technically classify as food by some standards. Though not often, it was a passionate rant. The day after one of his rants, a student brought in a bag of food from Taco Bell. The professor objected. "There is no food allowed in my classroom." The student held up the bag to show the logo and said, "Don't worry, it's not food," and took a bite of a taco whilst maintaining eye contact. After a moment of surprise, the teacher admitted defeat with a polite but disgusted nod. The next day he directed the student's attention to a revised syllabus, specifically the new rule, no food or Taco Bell allowed at any time in the classroom. Given that the class was Introduction to Law, the teacher gave him extra credit